Rwandans will be voting in elections next week, and President Paul Kagame is widely expected to bag another sweeping victory. He's been leader since the end of the country's 1994 genocide. In the most recent election, Kagame won nearly 99% of the vote, but not without controversy. While the country has made economic advancements, rights groups have long accused the Rwandan government of stifling political opposition. Our correspondent Mariel Müller has been monitoring the run-up to the polls, and she has this report from Kigali.
Kigali is what many people think of when they think of Rwanda, a modern, clean, developed and safe capital. The government has worked hard to sell this image.
We've been mostly successful in the most important things that we wanted to get done, which means security and safety for Rwandans, bringing back home refugees, uniting Rwandans, justice and progress in delivering to Rwandans. Rwanda today is better off than it's ever been.
Rwanda has grown economically, reduced maternal mortality and improved healthcare. It has also become a major conference and tourist destination. But that's not enough, especially when 60% of Rwandans still live below the poverty line, says opposition leader Victoire Ingabire.
There are some achievements. I agree that the Kigali will have a beautiful building, clean streets, but development is not that. Development is educate your people, and that we have a problem of malnutrition among the kids under 5 years. That is all kind of the poverty we have in our country. Outside the Kigali, we don't have roads. We need roads, we need electricity, we need water, we need hospitals. There's many things that we have to achieve.
Victoire Ingabire has been a fierce critic of President Paul Kagame for decades and was punished for speaking up. She was imprisoned for 8 years for challenging the government narrative of the 1994 genocide that targeted the Tutsi minority and killed about 800,000 people.
If you criticize the institution in Rwanda, of the government, of course you are labeled to be the enemy of the country. Like me, I spent 8 years in prison only because I has criticized the policy of the government. So this is why I ask, they have to understand that we need also democracy in our country to have a sustainable development. We need to have leaders who are accountable before the citizen.
Kagame has been praised for bringing stability to Rwanda in the 30 years since the genocide. But rights groups have criticized the country's human rights record. Enforced disappearances, arbitrary detention, extrajudicial killings and torture are routine. 14 members of Victoire Ingabire's opposition party and 3 journalists are behind bars. Several more are awaiting trial. The government denies there's a problem.
We do not assassinate people. We're a country of rule of law. We're a country that values life. That is the biggest lesson that we learned from the genocide. Our job is to take care of Rwandans. People are free to say whatever they want.
The country ranks 144th out of 180 in the World Press Freedom Index.
Do you think it will be a free and fair election?
Yes, it will. It's always been.
It's widely expected that Paul Kagame will win this election with more than 90% of the vote, as he has done in previous polls.
We're joined now by Clémentine Demonjoie, a senior researcher at Human Rights Watch. She joins us from Biarritz in France. Good to have you on the program, Clémentine. Now, is Kagame's re-election a done deal?
Thanks for having me. So the elections in Rwanda are taking place in a heavily restricted environment. The political space in Rwanda is controlled by the RPF and President Paul Kagame. There's only 2 other people who are running against him in these elections, and they won less than 2% of the vote combined in the last election. Several opposition leaders who tried to register as candidates were unable to do so, and there's over a dozen opposition members who are currently in prison in Rwanda. So that leaves us with a very limited perspective in terms of how things will progress going forward.
Give us more insight as to why the opposition looks the way it does. Why isn't there a strong opposition?
Because being a political opponent in Rwanda, being outspoken and critical of the government and its policies is a dangerous affair. We've documented numerous cases of Rwandan opposition members, critics, commentators, bloggers, journalists who've been found dead in suspicious circumstances, who've gone missing, who've had national intelligence on their doorstep, who've been held incommunicado, or who are on trial or convicted in prison in violation of their human rights. So ultimately that restricts heavily the opportunities for people to emerge as political figures and opposition leaders in the country.
What about the election process itself? We do see that there are huge numbers turning out to vote for President Kagame each time, despite these criticisms you mentioned. So why is that so? Why don't we see, for example, protest votes?
I mean, what we've seen in the past is the president winning, around 95, 98% of the vote. Which is absolutely huge, as you say, but the vote isn't taking place in a free and fair environment, and it's certainly not taking place in an environment where people can freely express their political opinions and take part in political life in the country. So that has to be factored in when you look at the election results.
Okay, Clementine Demongerat from Human Rights Watch, many thanks for speaking to us.
Thank you very much.